The pounding on my door at 5 a.m. sent my heart racing. Standing there in my worn pajama pants, I froze when I saw her, my boss, Catherine Mills, the woman who terrified our entire department, mascara streaking down her face, shivering in the pre-dawn chill. "I have nowhere else to go," she whispered. What happened next would change both our lives forever, and taught me that sometimes the strongest people are the ones most desperately hiding their broken pieces. If you've ever felt like your life was falling apart while trying to keep it together for everyone else, hit that like button. And subscribe to see more stories about unexpected connections that heal us when we least expect it. I'm Daniel Foster, 34, single dad to my 6-year-old daughter Lily since my wife walked out 2 years ago. Life had settled into a manageable routine: wake up at 5:30, make Lily's lunch, drop her at my sister's place by 7 o'clock, then rush to the office where I'd spend my day avoiding the cold stare of Catherine Mills, the executive director who'd earned the nickname Ice Queen throughout the company. That morning, though, everything changed. I'd been up since 4:30 anyway. Lily had a nightmare about monsters under her bed, and I'd just gotten her back to sleep when the knocking started. Quiet at first, then more insistent. Through the peephole, I could barely recognize Catherine. Her normally perfect blonde hair hung in damp tangles around her face. Her designer clothes were rumpled, and she clutched her arms around herself like she was holding something inside that might escape. "Ms. Mills?" I said, opening the door just enough to speak through the gap. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "I know this is completely inappropriate. I remembered you lived in this building from your employee file, and I..." She stopped, seeming to realize how strange this all was. "I shouldn't have come. I'm sorry." As she turned to leave, I noticed she had no coat despite the February cold, and something about her vulnerability in that moment made me call out. "Wait. Come in. At least until you warm up." My apartment wasn't much, a 2-bedroom with toys scattered across the living room floor and dishes from yesterday's dinner still in the sink. Catherine stepped inside hesitantly, like she was entering a foreign country. "Coffee?" I offered, suddenly aware I was standing in front of my boss wearing only pajama pants and an old t-shirt with a faded superhero logo. She nodded, sinking onto my couch. "Thank you, Daniel." I was surprised she knew my name. In 3 years at the company, she'd never addressed me directly, always speaking through my department manager. While the coffee brewed, I grabbed a throw blanket from the closet and handed it to her. She wrapped it around her shoulders, her hands trembling slightly. "I left him," she said suddenly. "My husband. Tonight. Or yesterday, I guess." I didn't know what to say. Office rumors had painted Catherine's life as perfect: wealthy husband, mansion in the suburbs, exotic vacations. The woman sitting on my worn couch looked nothing like the polished executive who strode through our office making everyone nervous. "He's been cheating for years," she continued, staring at the wall. "I always knew, but tonight I found evidence he's been stealing from the company. My company. Using my access codes." She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed but suddenly fierce. 15 years I've built Mills Marketing from nothing, and he was siphoning client funds through shell accounts. I handed her a mug of coffee, trying to process this information. "Did you call the police?" I confronted him first. "Big mistake." Her hand went unconsciously to her wrist, and I noticed the bruising there. "When I threatened to report him, he..." She didn't finish the sentence. I grabbed my phone and ran. "My sister lives in Europe. My parents are dead. I have no real friends, just business associates who report to me." A bitter laugh escaped her. "Pathetic, right? The great Catherine Mills, nowhere to go at midnight except her car." "You've been in your car all night?" I asked. She nodded. "Driving around. Then I remembered your address from when I signed off on your emergency family leave last year." She looked up. "For your daughter's appendix surgery." I was stunned she remembered that detail. Catherine Mills, who I thought barely knew I existed, had not only recalled my daughter's medical emergency but remembered where I lived. "Daddy?" Lily's small voice came from the hallway. She stood there in her unicorn pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Who's talking?" "Hey, sweetheart," I said, crossing to her. "This is Ms. Mills from Daddy's work. She needed to talk to me about something important. Why don't you go back to bed for a little while?" Lily studied Catherine with the direct curiosity only children possess. "Are you okay? You look sad." Catherine's composed facade cracked completely then. A tear slid down her cheek as she tried to smile at my daughter. "I'm a little sad, yes. But your dad is being very kind to me. When I'm sad, Daddy makes pancakes with faces," Lily announced. "They have banana smiles and blueberry eyes." I checked the time, 5:30 now, almost when we'd be getting up anyway. "Would you like some pancakes, Ms. Mills?" I asked. "Catherine," she corrected softly. "And yes, I think I would." That morning changed everything. As Lily chattered away over breakfast, I watched Catherine slowly transform. The rigid posture softened. She laughed at Lily's jokes. When Lily insisted on showing Catherine her collection of rocks from the park, Catherine examined each one with genuine interest. "I should go," Catherine said eventually, glancing at her watch. "It's almost 7 o'clock. Where will you go?" I asked. She hesitated. "A hotel, I suppose. Until I figure things out." "You can stay here," Lily announced, making both adults turn to her in surprise. "We have a couch. Daddy says it's not comfy for sleeping, but it's better than a car." Catherine looked at me, uncertain. I couldn't impose. "It's not imposing if we offer," I said, surprising myself. "Just until you sort things out. The couch does fold out." She started to protest, then stopped. "Thank you," she said simply. I called my sister to explain I'd be late dropping off Lily, making up a story about a plumbing emergency. Catherine called her assistant to say she'd be working remotely due to a personal matter. Neither of us mentioned the real situation. After I took Lily to my sister's, I returned to find Catherine on her laptop at my kitchen table, already deep in work mode. She looked up when I entered. "I've contacted our company attorneys," she said. "They're preparing to file charges against Richard. I've also frozen the accounts he was accessing." Her voice was steady, but I could see the cost of this professional composure in the tightness around her eyes. "Are you okay?" I asked. The question seemed to surprise her. "I'm fine," she said automatically, then paused. "No, that's not true. I'm terrified. 15 years of marriage ending like this. The company I've built potentially compromised. And here I am, imposing on an employee I've barely spoken to." "You're not imposing," I said, sitting across from her. "And for what it's worth, I think you're handling this with incredible strength." She looked at me then, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time. "Why are you being so kind to me? I know my reputation at the office. The Ice Queen. I've heard the whispers." I considered my answer carefully. Because 3 years ago, when my wife left and I was suddenly a single parent to a 4-year-old, I learned that sometimes the people who seem the most put together are actually hanging by a thread. And sometimes all it takes is one person showing a little kindness to keep that thread from breaking. Catherine's professional mask slipped again, revealing something vulnerable beneath. "I don't know how to accept kindness very well," she admitted. "I've spent so long being strong." "Well," I said, standing to refill our coffee cups, "you can practice while you're here." The next few days established a strange new routine. Catherine worked remotely from my apartment, taking video calls from my kitchen table while I was at the office. She insisted on picking Lily up from my sister's in the afternoons, using her company car and driver to bring my daughter home safely. By the time I arrived each evening, dinner would be waiting. Catherine, it turned out, was an excellent cook when she had the time. I used to love cooking, she told me one night as we washed dishes together after Lily had gone to bed. Before the company grew so large. Before Richard started criticizing everything I made. "Well, Lily and I think you're amazing," I said. "She asked me yesterday if you could live with us forever." Catherine's hands stilled in the soapy water. "What did you tell her?" "That you have your own life and home, but that you're welcome here as long as you need to be." She was quiet for a moment. "I've found an apartment," she said finally. "The lease starts next week." "Oh," I said, feeling an unexpected disappointment. "That's good." "That you're getting settled, I mean." "Yes," she agreed, but neither of us sounded convinced. On her 5th night staying with us, I woke around midnight to the sound of muffled crying. Following the noise to the living room, I found Catherine curled on the fold-out couch, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "Catherine?" I said softly. She sat up quickly, wiping her face. "I'm sorry. Did I wake you?" I shook my head and sat on the edge of the bed. "Want to talk about it?" "It's stupid," she said. "The divorce papers came today. 15 years reduced to signatures on a document." "That's not stupid," I said. "That's a loss worth grieving, even if the relationship was bad at the end." She looked at me with surprise. "Most people just tell me I'm better off without him." "You probably are," I said. "But that doesn't make it hurt any less right now." Without thinking, I reached out and took her hand. She stiffened momentarily, then relaxed, her fingers curling around mine. "How did you do it?" she asked. "After your wife left?" "One day at a time," I answered honestly. Some days were just about surviving until bedtime. But eventually, I started having good days mixed in with the bad ones. And Lily needed me to be okay, so I found a way to be okay. Catherine nodded, understanding. "Your daughter is lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one," I said. "She gives me purpose." We sat in comfortable silence, still holding hands, until Catherine spoke again. "I always wanted children," she said quietly. "Richard didn't. He said they would interfere with my career, with our lifestyle. I let him convince me he was right." "It's not too late," I said. "If that's what you want." She gave me a sad smile. "Maybe. But first I need to figure out who Catherine Mills is without Richard Harrington defining her." The next morning at breakfast, Lily announced she had a very important question for Catherine. "What is it, sweetheart?" Catherine asked, pouring syrup on Lily's pancakes. "Are you my daddy's girlfriend now?" I nearly choked on my coffee. "Lily, Ms. Mills is just staying with us temporarily because I needed some help," Catherine finished smoothly. "And your daddy and you have been very kind to help me." Lily considered this. "But you could be his girlfriend if you wanted. He's very nice and makes good pancakes." Catherine caught my eye across the table, and to my surprise, she was fighting a smile. "The pancakes are excellent," she agreed. "But relationships are complicated, Lily. Grown-ups always say that," Lily sighed dramatically. That evening, Catherine wasn't at the apartment when Lily and I got home. A note on the counter explained she had meetings that would run late. Lily was disappointed, having grown accustomed to their afternoon routine. "Will Catherine come back?" she asked as I tucked her in. "Yes, but remember she'll be moving to her own place soon," I said gently. "I don't want her to go," Lily said, her lower lip trembling. "She reads the voices in my books better than you do." I laughed. "That's probably true. And she makes you smile more," Lily added sleepily. "You didn't smile as much before." Her observation hit me harder than I expected. Had I been so transparent that even my 6-year-old could see the difference in me? Catherine returned after 10 p.m., looking exhausted. I was working on my laptop in the living room and stood to greet her. "Rough day?" I asked. She nodded, slipping off her heels with a wince. The board called an emergency meeting about Richard's embezzlement. Some members suggested I should have known what was happening. "That's ridiculous," I said, anger flaring on her behalf. "You were the one who discovered it and reported it." "That's what our legal team said." She sank onto the couch beside me. "But the damage is done. There will be an independent audit, and my leadership is under scrutiny." Without thinking, I put my arm around her shoulders. "I'm sorry. That's not fair." She leaned into me slightly. "Life rarely is." After a moment, she added, "Lily asked if I was your girlfriend this morning." I felt my face warm. Kids say the darndest things. She also said you've been smiling more since I've been here. I met her eyes. She told me the same thing about you tonight. Something shifted between us in that moment, an acknowledgement of whatever had been building over these strange, intimate days of shared space and vulnerability. "Daniel," she said softly, "what are we doing?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I know I don't want it to end when you move out next week." She took a deep breath. "I'm your boss. There are company policies about this sort of thing." "I know. And I'm in the middle of a messy divorce." "I know that too. And you have Lily to consider." I smiled. "Lily adores you." "But yes, her well-being comes first." Catherine was quiet for a long moment. "I've spent my entire adult life making safe, practical decisions. Building walls to protect myself. And look where it got me, married to a man who betrayed me, respected but alone." She turned to face me fully. "For once, I want to follow my heart instead of my head." "And what is your heart saying?" I asked, hardly daring to breathe. Instead of answering with words, she leaned forward and kissed me, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence when I responded. When we finally pulled apart, we were both smiling. "That's what my heart is saying," she whispered. The week before Catherine moved into her new apartment was filled with stolen moments, shared glances over breakfast, fingers brushing while passing coffee cups, quiet conversations after Lily went to bed. We agreed to take things slowly, to be discreet at work, and to make sure Lily understood that Catherine wasn't replacing her mother but becoming something new in our lives. The night before she was to move out, after Lily was asleep, Catherine and I sat on the balcony of my apartment, looking at the city lights. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice careful. "About us. About work." My heart sank. "Having second thoughts?" "No," she said quickly. "The opposite, actually. I've decided to restructure the company leadership. I'm promoting myself to chairwoman and appointing a new executive director to handle day-to-day operations." I stared at her. "Because of me?" "Partially," she admitted. "But also because this crisis with Richard made me realize I've been so focused on running the company that I forgot to live my life. I want more balance. More time for the things that matter." She took my hand. "And the people who matter. Are you sure? You love your work." "I do," she agreed. "And I'll still be involved, just differently. But I've discovered there are other things I love too." Her eyes met mine. "Other people." The next morning, as we helped Catherine load the last of her overnight things into her car, Lily was unusually quiet. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Catherine asked, kneeling to Lily's level. "If you live in your new house, will we still see you?" Lily asked, her voice small. Catherine glanced up at me, then back to Lily. "Absolutely. In fact, I was hoping you and your dad might help me decorate this weekend. The place is very empty right now." Lily's face brightened. "Can I pick the colors?" "We'll negotiate," Catherine laughed, pulling her into a hug. As they embraced, I felt something settle in my chest.